Hello, welcome to Tea with Mali. Today we have Donna Wilkinson, two-time gold medalist with the DC Divas. Thanks so much for being here, Donna.
Hi, Molly. Thanks for having me.
I would like to congratulate you for all of the amazing traveling that you've done, the awards and accolades through the DC Divas. We're going to go into deeper layers of all the things that you've done through the years with them. But how did you get inspired to even learn about football, to even know that you had any interest in it whatsoever?
Well, I'm from Southern California, and I was one of those unique girls that grew up with an opportunity to do everything. At 2 years old, I was swimming. I was the eldest child, so my dad always had me out doing something athletic, and I soon realized that I was one of the strongest females out there, and that I had something very unique about me when it related to strength and to athletic ability. And I think it was 5 or 6 when we had just moved back from Hawaii, and I was at my grandparents' house. A Raiders game was on, and my grandpa was sitting there. I said, I want to be big like you so I can play football one day. And they all looked at me and said, that's nice, that's funny, and didn't really think much of it. Women weren't playing football, girls weren't playing at that time. You know, there was really no thought about that. But somehow inside of me, I thought, wow, that looks like the coolest sport, and I could do it really well. Well, that dream just sort of like faded away until my neighbors started playing high school football. And I realized then that, wow, I really can't play this game. They'd come and play in the yard. We'd have a little fun tackling each other. And I thought, oh, this is great. And then I asked my mom, hey, can I play in this rec or can I do that? Oh, no, you can't do that. And so I really started feeling sad that I was a female and that females didn't have the opportunity to play football. And so I continued on with softball. I started playing basketball, started playing volleyball. Anything they'd let me play, I started playing.
Okay.
But football was always somewhere deep inside of me of something that I could do, but I wasn't allowed to. So I think that innate feeling of, okay, this is something I'd like to do, you can't do it, there's no opportunity for it, go to college on a softball scholarship, come all the way across the country to pitch and to get a degree, get 2 degrees actually, and then 2 years after college, there's women's tackle football. So it was like my whole childhood, I'd been dreaming of this opportunity, and then boom, there it arrives. And right after I finished playing, and I've been competing since I was 5, 6 years old in every other sport. So if you're a collegiate athlete and you've only known athletics your entire life from elementary on, when you graduate, there's not a lot of opportunities for women in sports. There's a few basketball positions, maybe a few tennis. Now there's some boxing and MMA, but that's a very small percentage of women that have a chance to compete after they finish playing, sports. So that was my opportunity to get back on that competitive level again, to play America's sport, the greatest sport on earth. And so I was like in love. This was the greatest thing that had ever happened to me.
How did you find out that it existed? Like, were you researching for it, or did you hear it through the grapevine, all of a sudden you're like, wow, what is this? Like, I can't believe it's actually in existence.
Well, when I was interning in college, I heard that there were women's barnstorming tours, like teams starting to form,
Okay.
and that they were traveling around. There wasn't an official league yet. So I started just kind of in the back of my head thinking, oh, it's going to happen. But there was nothing in the DC area. I started playing flag football. And when they decided to form a tackle football league, they found a coach locally who was going to coach, and he went out recruiting at all the flag football games, thinking these women are tired of pulling flags. I think they're going to want to play tackle. And so I was actually approached by coaches who said, hey, we're starting a tackle league. Do you want to come out? So I had a couple other girls that I played with on a co-ed league said, hey, let's go try out for this tackle team. And that was the beginning 14 years ago.
Wow. And at that time, it was always the DC Divas? Like, is that how they started with the name, or was it something else and then evolved?
Well, interestingly enough, before the DC Divas team was brought into that first 10 teams that played,
Okay.
there was a team in Baltimore that had tryouts first. So I actually went and tried out for Baltimore first, and a few players came up there and tried out. And then within a month, they said, oh, we're going to have a team in DC too. And all the women that I knew from the Virginia flag football leagues were going to try out for the DC. So I came and tried out for DC too. Well, I ended up getting asked to play on both teams and decided I knew more of the players in DC. It was a little bit closer to where I lived. And I'm just thinking about that decision, like how one decision can change everything. And how the difference between what happened to that Baltimore Burn franchise, who we beat 43-0 last week, and they weren't even on our level at any level, to compared to where we've grown in 14 years. That one decision to come play in DC changed everything, because now I became a leader of that team, built a way of training, of working, of going after how how you prepare, how you play, how you train. And a lot of players followed that suit, and a lot of players were inspired by that and continued to do their own work. And it's just been a part of how the franchise has developed over the years, was that decision and that work ethic that I have to, respect the game and to respect how I play it.
Wow, 14 years. 14 years. So what have you learned in those 14 years as a player?
Wow. Well, I've learned the game of football much better than I knew it as a fan. I knew all the rules of the game, and you can sit back and be a backseat couch quarterback and think you know everything, but until you actually play the game and you understand all the intricacies, I mean, learning things like what the gaps are and maybe I knew the names of the positions before, but that was just about it in the rules. Learning the strategies, learning how defenses are trying to set up their chess match and showing one coverage and moving into another. All those little things I learned about football, but the real thing is that I learned football is really a mirror, a self-reflecting mirror to show you everything about yourself. When you play a sport, that at any moment you can be paralyzed, that at any moment you can break and tear and sprain something, that if you have a doubt or a fear, you don't catch that ball, you don't make that tackle, you don't make that play. You start to see how life works, you start to see how your mind works, and every little idea you have about something immediately plays out. It plays out so fast that it's like quantum speed of learning. And so I started really learning about life in football. I started learning who I really am, who I thought I was as a athlete with a big ego that needed to win. I had that time of my life where that played out in football. And it was a very interesting time for me. It was like a lot of people, trying to prove myself, to others. And then I went through a spiritual evolution where that was no longer the case, where I didn't look at my opponent and say, I need to beat you to feel better about myself. And I learned that I was already a winner, that I was already within myself very powerful, and that I could use the field, instead of being a competitive venue where I'm trying to compete and beat everybody, now it's my playground. Now it's where I get to play with concepts of who I am, of consciousness, of things that people look at me and say, you're a football player and you love the people you play against? Well, yeah, because they're giving me a chance to be better, to push myself, to learn something more about myself.
Yeah. Well, what's the concept of teamwork for you? I mean, you've been around these lovely women from all walks of life, from every part of the nation and the world. You've traveled the world to make some incredible opportunities happen, not only for yourself, but for all the members of the team. What does it take to create strong teamwork in such a competitive sport? And I think more so in women's football, because it's a smaller market still than the massive, attention that's being played out on the male side. So how do you stay together?
Well, that's the key. It's not only a smaller market, but it's a bigger team. My basketball team had 12 or 15 players on it. Softball team might have 20. We got 65 women that have to get along, that have to be on the same page to make this work. So what it really is buy-in. It's buy-in to what our mission is. And our team is often, our motto is we're on a mission. We're on a mission to work together, to be a team, to be a family. And I think when you put the team as your family, that helps you buy in. When you realize it's about winning that championship, because we got a lot of talented athletes out there. Every year they get faster, they get stronger, they get more talented. So you might have been a star in your college, and then you come and you're sitting the bench. And so you have to really work through a lot of those issues. Everybody does, because everybody has to play a role. And you have to accept what that role is. But we had a player from Team USA, Jen Welter, that gave a speech on diversity. And it was amazing. It was the 4th of July. We were playing Germany for the second round of our tournament in Finland. And she gave this amazing speech that our diversity is our strength. If everyone on the team looked the same, if they had the same skill set, if they had the same body type, we wouldn't be successful. Because you need those big, strong women on the line who are 200 plus pounds to dominate and have that massive effect. You need those middle-sized athletic people that are strong at linebacker, tight end, running back. And you need those really small, fast people that can fly at wide receiver and defensive back. And so the diversity that it takes to make a football team successful is our strength. And when you start to recognize that, you recognize, well, I have this body type, I have this skill set. I can't play that position. I can't be good at that position. I can be good here. So first you have to understand who you are and accept that. Then you have to accept, well, from this position, where do I fit into a team of 65 women? Because there might be 6 or 8 other people at my position, and there's only 2 or 3 people on the field at one time. Mm-hmm. So acknowledging when someone's better than you, when they have a better or different skill set, and appreciating what that is, and then honing in on what you're best at, and building that, and being comfortable with being good at what you're being good at. And I think for all of us, that was one of the challenges that we faced, because as females, we're very competitive. We always want to feel like we're good at everything. We have ourselves together at every level, and we realize, no, you have yourself together here. You have yourself together here. And to, really focus on your strengths, and to be okay with where other people are stronger than you, or where they have different skill sets or body types that make them more appropriate for that position. And that's a very interesting realization to come. And what's interesting, so many women have come to the Divas who are really big, strong, 200 to 300 pound women who, after playing and realizing they're very special at that weight, what other sport gives a 200 plus pound woman the opportunity to say, you are really important to this team? Then they go and they decide, well, I don't need to be that heavy, I want to lose the weight. And they do. Or they make other life changes. So it really is empowering for women to play a sport where every kind of woman is accepted and valued for who she is. And it doesn't say you need to change, you need to lose 10 pounds. No, that 10 pounds helps you. And it's a really beautiful thing to have that opportunity to show women you can be beautiful no matter who you are, how you look, what your size is.
Wow. Mm-hmm. It's a really powerful statement or story, or even sharing, because that is such a challenge for a lot of women, most women, to really feel like there's a place for them always. I mean, you might be good here, but then you might not be accepted there. And it's a tricky thing to know that no matter where you are, no matter where you go, what you do, you're going to be accepted, because that comes down to, again, self-love and self-esteem. And when you're around a lot of women who have to learn to love themselves at wherever they're at, at whatever shape and size, I'm sure it's pretty inspiring to be there knowing that everybody there loves themselves, which then makes it much easier to love other people. I will say this. It's interesting, I've known you for a long time. It's been years. I've lost count, 7 plus, maybe 8 years now. Absolutely. And watch you, the evolution of you as a woman, as a friend. And I feel like you're stronger today, and I don't necessarily mean just physically stronger today, mentally, emotionally, than you've ever been since I've known you. How do you keep the stamina? You're constantly on the field, you're working your body all the time. How do you keep going in this line of work?
It starts with my belief system. And I think everybody in every field, no matter what they're doing, their success or their drive to do it starts with their belief that they can, that they should be doing it, and that I love it. I love it so much. Like, I just realized, I'm going to be hitting 40 soon. And I thought about that, and I always kind of have this feeling like I'm just out of college. I started playing 2 years out of college, and all I've known is playing. So I kind of still put myself back to that feeling. Look, I just started playing football, just got out of school, and after speaking at a couple colleges recently and looking at those kids, I realized, wait, my perception and the reality is very different, but yet that perception is still allowing me to have that reality. And so I just kind of had one of those aha moments this past couple weeks when I was looking at these young college kids and thinking, you look so young, and yet I still feel like you look. Yeah. And it was really powerful for me to realize I just see myself as being young, athletic, and strong, that I can continue to do that. And then having that motivation keeps me in the off season in better shape. It keeps me pushing year round to be able to do what I love to do. Because I realize in the sport, one hit can end it. I've broken my back. I was close to not walking. I've had a neck injury that was close to being life-threatening. And when you've gone through that and you realize you can lose it all in a moment, you start to appreciate the moments. And you start to realize you have to value every opportunity you have to have that moment. So my preparation for it now, and every moment is like, okay, I don't just love the moment that I'm on the field competing. I love the moments getting ready for it. The moments with my teammates when we're working hard, when our coaches are running us back and forth till we want to throw up, which is part of the buy-in on how we love each other so much. When you put so much into it, and a game where you're physically taking a lot out of you, that bonds you with the people around you because you have a common experience that no one else can understand. They can't understand what you've gone through together to be in that position. And that's something you can't get anywhere in life.
You know, you have broken your back. You have multiple injuries. In fact, I've seen you during those years with your injuries, sometimes hobbling around, and I'm like, what is she, nuts? You know, I mean, from the outside, it's like, why would you put yourself through that again and again and again? And yes, of course, the obvious answer is the love of the game. But I want to go deeper. There's a deeper reason why you would put yourself back on that field. What is it that allows you to do that, to pick yourself back up in these, you know, troubling times, these dark places? Because trust me, when you break your back, you have to be on that back for a little while anyway, and you have to reflect and be with yourself. How do you get out of bed and say, I'm going back?
Well, number one, I'm not afraid of the injuries. I'm not afraid of them. Number two is, after having so many, I realize everyone's a teacher. I wouldn't be getting the injury if I wasn't to learn something new. And my purpose, and one of my purpose in life, is to grow and to learn and to become as expanded a version of myself as I can be. What a better place than a place where you can continually learn about yourself day in and day out through the challenges. And injuries are definitely challenges that have pushed me deeper, and that's where some of my strength comes from that you talk about. Is I've had to self-reflect so many times that it's like, how much more? I keep asking the universe, okay, haven't I learned these lessons enough? You know, what else do I still need to get from it? And a lot of times it ends up just becoming slow down. Have patience. You don't need to push it so hard, because I'm always on that go, trying to push it hard. And so sometimes it's a simple message. It's not always, you know, the great ahas that I've had, and I've had many of those. But it really is about the growth for me and an opportunity to feel like I can make an impact for others through that, because everything I learn, I want to share. And as I learn and share and become the teacher, then I realize that I'm really learning more as I'm teaching it. And I'm sure you've gone through that as you're teaching and really sharing a lot with people. Absolutely. That's your growth moments when you teach. And so I'm able to give back in a way that I couldn't before. I'm able to share with others in a way and have impact. And I feel like I want to keep going as long as I can have a bigger impact. Once I realize my impact is done with football, that I will have a greater impact with the business things that I'm doing, with the television, with the other aspects of my career, then I'll move into those aspects. But right now I feel like, you know, coming up into an age where no people really play football, and to still do it at a really high level, I want to educate people on how to do that, how to stay healthy through all those kind of challenges, and to be able to come back and do it. So I think there's a greater population besides women that can learn from what I'm doing now and the way I'm preparing.
Well, I was nodding my head earlier on, you know, two different points. You know, when I nod my head and I smile, it's not just because I agree that you push hard and you go through whatever it takes to make sure that the goals that you want to achieve. I'm also nodding my head and smiling because, yes, I do that as well in my own work, in my own way, and I get a lot of messages to pause. And it does help me when things around me, the people around me, the situation, or when something just nudges me and says, okay, you got to slow down, because there's one thing to go out and try and achieve all the goals in the world, but if it's only just for you and it's not serving a higher purpose, you are going to get exhausted as a human being. You know, you and I always talk about this, the spiritual self and the human self, right? The physical human self does have capacity. The spiritual self can keep going, and it's infinite. But because we're on this earth and this package and this, you know, no matter how connected we are to want to do these big things, we have to be cognizant of our body. And I just like that, to share that, because with the analogy is, you know, at least with you, the stretching the limits of your body also allows your body to expand, to do more spiritual work. And with that note, I do want to talk about the things that you love to do outside of the DC Divas, because the work that you do here, especially in the community with young girls, that leads into all of the powerful and passionate things you do outside. And I know that the team does a lot of stuff too. I'd love to talk about some of the community work that you guys do.
Well, we're very active in the community, and maybe one of the most active sports franchises in all of Washington, D.C. The Redskins, they get paid to go do a certain number of promotional events. So each player has a requirement. They go, they show up for an hour, they leave. Well, that's great because they have the dollars and everything, and they have the recognition. People know who they are. We don't have all that. So we really feel like part of growing our organization is being in the community. But beyond that, we want to make an impact. And so I do every community event that I possibly can. I try to reflect my schedule around the opportunities to get out and be in the community. And a lot of that involves speaking at schools. I'd say in the last month I've been at 5 or 6 different schools. I'm speaking at Gallaudet tomorrow. And so I have an opportunity to really show, especially young girls, that the sky's the limit. And to show kids that if you follow your dream, the technology, the things that exist now, didn't exist when I was young. The things that these young kids will invent, will create, will manifest are going to be things that we haven't even thought of. So I want to inspire these people to, to follow their dream, whatever it may be, no matter if it's football or some other, aspect of their life that they want to grow in, and just show them, hey, you can do it. And that's part of why I'm in the community doing a lot of the work with the schools. And I just love it. I love the look on their faces. I love to see that aha moment when they're like, wow. And I go in my full pads and they're looking at this girl with long hair flowing out and big shoulder pads on. It just kind of really, it's exciting for me to see the paradigm shifts at such a young age.
Great. Yeah, I'm sure they're just in awe of it, because what they see on television is not always reflective of what's possible in reality in the real world. And so you've got your football gear on, and then you're looking up, and especially with the young ones, and you see women, you're like, wow. Can imagine it's pretty awe-inspiring for them.
Yeah, it's just a great feeling, and that's why I keep going back. And I went to one school from the classes 1st grade till their 6th grade graduation. So I saw these kids every single year as they grew up. They asked me to come back and give their 6th grade commencement speech as they were going to junior high. And to see them from little kids to that day wearing their little suits and dresses, all dressed up, and just to see the growth, and that I had an impact on that entire class every year of their life. That's powerful, because one person can affect change on the planet. So who knows how many of those people are going to be inspired to do something great, and I'm glad to be a part of it.
Fantastic. You mentioned briefly that you had other business projects and things outside of playing the game of football and being with the DC Divas. Let's touch a little bit upon that, because I know that you're very active in the community, not just as a player, a member of the DC Divas. You also are a leader in your community. You also work as a consultant. I'd love for you to kind of focus on some key areas of your other life, your professional life, and share a little bit about that aspect.
Well, I've always been interested in health. I've always been interested in business. I got a business degree. I got a health fitness degree while I was in college. So those things were very important to me when I was in school. And now that I've come out, I first started personal training. That was very easy for me to do. I had a personal training business. I was working at a gym, crazy hours. And from there, I started getting introduced to other aspects of wellness, other aspects of health, of technology in the health field that's making a difference for people. And we always think about technology with our cell phones, with our computers, with our cars, that they have all these advancements, and we can't even keep up with them every year or two. But how many people are actually thinking about the advancements that they can take advantage of for their health? Not many.
Right.
And so because I'm on the field and I have to recover fast, I have to get back from an injury in quantum time if I want to stay out there, I'm looking for every advantage I can find. And because I'm in that position of being open to learn, a lot of things have come to me. And so one of my passions is just to educate people as a wellness consultant, as a health coach. It's turning into even life coaching, because I can teach what I've learned about life to others. And I have some great companies I'm working with. ASEA has brought the first redox signaling supplement. People hear that, they're like, I don't even know what that word means. I'm like, great, you don't need to know. It helps your body communicate at a molecular level that we've never been able to do with any kind of vitamin or nutritional product. You can literally put communication in your body. Well, teaching somebody something simple like allowing their body to communicate and heal itself faster has had powerful results for a lot of people. It's something that if I don't have a benefit from, I won't talk about it. So everything that I share and talk about, I've had a personal experience with, and I know the value of it. I know from my heart what it can do for somebody. So I try to share things that I know are going to help, that I know somebody's going to like, wow, this could change everything for me. And because so many people are so lost, there's so many ads for everything going out saying, try this, do this diet, do that. I like to come with a simple plan of going as natural as you can, as being as clean as you can. I choose to eat vegetarian, to eat organic, non-GMO. I do a lot of things that for me work really, really well and have made a difference in how I feel. And so I don't preach that everybody has to live this way, but I have a path that I have chosen that I can share about, that I can kind of guide people toward, well, maybe you want to make a small change here or a small change there, and just kind of share what I've learned. And that's as much of it as, you know, getting the degree and all that education. I actually share more about what I've learned personally from my experience with things than just from the learning from the education.
Yeah. Speaking of education, what degrees did you get?
Business administration, and then health fitness management with a healthcare administration emphasis. And that was a really interesting time for me, because I went and had a internship in Florida with the health side of things, and it was in healthcare administration. And I went down and had a great internship. They paid me well. They put me in a beautiful condo, and I was in a business suit every day. And I was going into the office. I was working on reports. I was going to CEO hospital meetings. And I realized at the end of that, I didn't want to be in an office and in a business suit every day of my life. And thank God I had that internship, which was great. They even offered me to come back and be part of a 3-year program where you go 6 months in different rotations on track to become a hospital CEO. And I thought, well, that's a great opportunity, but I don't want to be in that environment. I really want to be out in the field. I want to be active. I want to be with people. I want to be touching people face to face, and I want to be comfortable. I don't want to have to wake up every day and say, okay, I'm in at 7 or 8 in the morning and going till late at night. And so I learned very early what I didn't want, and that opened me up to start finding all these new things that I'm now doing, which are exactly what I want.
Brings up a great point, though, as you're sharing that. You know, the things that we are led to always lead us somewhere else. So the fact that you did that internship and you were curious. That's why you said yes to it. And that's one point that I want to make is we have to stay curious. And we have to try things that in that moment we feel is the right thing for us. It may not be ultimately the path that we'll end on. Usually it's not. But there's a reason why our intuition, our gut is telling us to go. And usually when that happens for me, it's like, it really is go try it. Because at the end of the day, it is about a try. It's about a trial period. It's about you learning what you need to learn to say, yes, I want to be in a suit, or no, I don't. There's plenty of people in the world that would have loved that experience. You know, that's the structure that they excel in. So when I talk about choosing passion and purpose, people immediately think that if you choose your passion and purpose, you can then find a way to like now create a business with it. It's not necessarily the case. When you find your passion and purpose, you can just live and be in it wherever you are, whether it's in a career, whether you do want to launch something on your own, whether it's a nonprofit you want to get involved with that really matches that out. But I wanted to bring that point up because you went and you tried it. And it's only when you go and try something that you know one way or the other if it's the direction you should continue to pursue.
Yeah,
would you agree?
I would recommend people to try to be open and to not put themselves in a box. So many times we want to give ourselves this label, I'm this, I'm that, and then you lock yourself into only doing a narrow spectrum of things because you've decided already who and what you are. I don't know who and what I can become. I know an aspect of myself that I'm developing. I know parts that I've been. I know parts that I'm not. But I realize if I just limit myself and say I'm just this, then I might lose out on other things. So I try to stay open to a lot of things. I try things I might not like. You know, I try things I think I will like. I try things that I don't necessarily think I would want to pursue just because I think it would be a great opportunity to learn. And so for me, learning and being open is one of the big keys for my life. Oh man, 2 of the greatest experiences of my life. And I think also 2 of the greatest experiences for women's tackle football and football in general. So women's tackle football grew from that first year of 10 teams to over 2 leagues, our league with 60 teams, another league with 40 teams. We're talking about 100 women's tackle football teams or more in the United States playing. That's close to 3,000 women playing tackle football in this country. And as we were going and growing, we had been going for 10 years, and you only really play teams in your region, in your area, until you make it to playoffs and you might travel. They try to keep the cost down. So we didn't necessarily see a player from Chicago. We didn't necessarily see a player from Dallas, from Los Angeles, from San Diego, from these other areas. And of course, we think we're the best. And we don't give them a lot of respect because we don't see them. And I think that was the case across the board for women's football. Everyone thought they were the best if they won their division or their side and this, that, and the other. And there was just a lot of competitiveness and maybe not really understanding who everybody else was. In 2010, they took 45 of the top women's football players in the country. They selected them based on an extensive resume, an extensive application process, sending in game film, showing them what we've done over our career. And they selected the first ever women's national team. And I was fortunate to be a part of that.
Congratulations.
Well, we were immediately thrown together in Texas for a week to get to know each other for training camp. And those coaches, in less than 2 days, had us realizing that we were all special, that we were very unique, and that we needed to become a family immediately. That we had to take Boston off the back of our jersey, take DC off, take Chicago off, take all these teams and places that we played from and put Team USA instead. And they did some team building where we all put, like the O-line would put their heads in the middle and their legs apart, and then each group would go out, and we called it the onion. So we were all laying in a big circle together, and then they would do visualization with us, and they'd visualize us every aspect from the landing at the new country, getting off the plane, getting in, jet lag, working through that, going into practice, and then the first time when you hear your national anthem being played, the click-clack of the cleats as they're coming. So we're visualizing all these things together. We're really feeling how powerful this experience is going to be over and over again while we're in training camp. And then we get there and it's like we've been there before. And I'll tell you, those 45 women became some of my closest friends. They became my sisters immediately. And we got together, we had a great training camp. We went to Sweden. We had 3 games in 7 days over a 10-day trip in Sweden. And Iron Woman football. I mean, we play one game every 7 days normally. To squeeze that down and to have a day or 2 days off between games was really powerful. It was really challenging, but it was great because no rest for the weary. Just get back in it, and we're practicing every day in between. So we didn't really have time off. They gave us one day.
I'm exhausted already.
One day to sightsee. So we got to see a little bit of the historic sites and stuff for one day after we had practice in the morning, of course. So it really was a business trip. It was great. But what happened after that? Well, first of all, we came back and we had to get back into playoffs. So those players that I was just playing with, I now had to go back and compete against. So that was an interesting experience to go from making family, sisters, to then going and having to play them the next week in a playoff structure. So that was an interesting challenge in and of itself. But that gained a respect across the nation of players for other players, of players for other teams, and really respecting the game at a different level. And I could just see a unification in all of women's football because of that first experience that we had. And that was great to be a part of, to realize we're changing the history and the nature of this game, of what this sport means, of how we respect it, and that's going to have an impact in the future. 3 years later, this past summer, they had the second ever Women's World Championships. This year it was in Finland. Instead of sending in resumes and a big application, it was an open tryout. Anyone that thinks they can play, that they can make it, come try out in Texas. So 200 women from all over the country, from all the different leagues that are now playing, came for a big tryout. And that was another special moment in my career, because to stand with the Divas, we got 65 women, we got a good group, but to stand next to 200 of the best women's football players that think they can play on Team USA and practice and compete, that was a great tryout. Now, USA Football, they're supported by the NFL. They're actually the NFL's branch to develop the youth. They're the organization that put this together, that sent their coaches out to coach, to train us, to prepare us, to evaluate us, to see who was going to be a part of that team. Of course, the head coach for Team USA and their assistants were there, but there were at least 20 coaches from USA Football that were running all the drills. So
what a great advancement.
It was amazing, and to have USA Football now a part and understanding that women really love this game, that we play it with a lot of emotion, a lot of heart. It's no different than the guys. That everything's the same. Maybe the biggest difference is just our size and our speed, and there's very little difference in how we actually play the game. That was great to be there, and then to be selected again as one of the top 45 out of that group. That was another just amazing experience, to have training camp this year in Chicago, go to Finland, play the same thing, 3 games in 7 days. To see the Canadians from the first year to the second year improve, and to have on their door, "We control our destiny," and in the tunnels before we go out, our coaches just jumping up and down. Our team is doing this chant that we do for at least a minute, and the Canadian coach keeps looking over, looking at us, just like, it was just great to just see the interactions between the teams, the coaches, and then to just come out and dominate them again, and to have that feeling of, wow, you guys got better, but so did we. And we were able to, come out and play a high level of football. And then within a month after the World Championships, getting the nod from the U.S. Olympic Committee that football is now an up-and-coming Olympic sport, because the women's side is now playing internationally. And as soon as 2028, the earliest, it could potentially become an Olympic sport. If not, within the next 20 years, it's very likely to be in the Olympics. So we're paving the way for football, both men and women, to enter the Olympics. The 2 World Championships were the start of that. There's now 60 to 70 men's countries playing American tackle football. There's 12, at least, countries playing women's American tackle football. And so the sport itself is just growing fast around the world. And the greatest thing about some of the other countries, they don't have the same issues with young girls playing football that we do here. Football in this country is still a man's sport. And the young girls, they aren't encouraged to do that. They can't make a scholarship for college to do that. They're usually encouraged to go play sports that they can get their schooling paid for.
Right.
In Europe, 14, 15, 16-year-olds on the national team. They had to be 15 or older to play, but the very first year we played, their best player couldn't play because she was too young. Wow. And so they're encouraging these girls at a young age. And so that was one of the special things for me to realize, is that the limits we have here aren't the limits that they have everywhere. And while we can export our game to them, we should be importing some of their values here and some of their ideas of being openness and to what young girls can do if they really want to do that. And so that was really exciting for me. And now to have, Facebook friends and people that I communicate with all over the world that, love the sport, love the game, that's really awesome to have now. My football family is not just the Divas, it's not just Team USA, now it's the world. And that's a really special thing.
Now I understand why you keep going back.
I mean,
just
like,
you can't
it's
know.
like a drug that you just get addicted to.
I'm just sitting here thinking, I'm just like getting all of your energy, and I'm like, gosh, this is so amazing. And the simple thing is, you are paving the way, you meeting this generation of players, and of course you individually as well, because you all play a part in this whole grand scheme of this huge possibility for all these generations, these young ladies coming up, and even young men now that are going to go to the Olympics. So that's fantastic. Thank you and congratulations. It's huge accolades and accomplishments for you in your own professional career. How did you move into becoming a sports personality outside of the DC Divas? Because I know that you were asked to now get on television and talk about sports and talk about the game and the love of football. So how did that transpire, and how does it feel to be a sports celebrity?
Well, it just was one of those things that just kind of came about. Channel 9 was creating their first ever live sports show, at least in the past 5 years. And they were going to do it around the NFL season. They wanted to cover the Redskins here locally. They also had a little tie into Baltimore, so they wanted to cover the Baltimore Ravens. And Rich Daniel, our general manager, was helping put the team together. He was helping them create the programming, the content. He had done that for 20 years at the ABC station before that. So he'd come in as a consultant. He had also worked with the Redskins for 7 years and knew Darryl Green and Dexter Manley and Christine Brennan, the other panelists that I work with. And so he said, I think that you guys would be a great panel. He introduced the station to us, and WUSA 9 had their first live show, and I'm sitting there with Darryl Green, a 20-year Redskin veteran, and Dexter Manley, the all-time sack leader, and Christine Brennan, the first female that was allowed into a men's locker room, who paved the way for women to do post-game interviews in locker rooms when, before it was only men that were allowed in there. So I'm on stage with some of my heroes, some of the people that I admire so much, and I'm thinking, wow, I've got to really step up to the plate. I've got to know what I'm talking about. I've got to have a perspective that's different from theirs, that's mine. And so that really pushed me to get better, to grow, to own who I am, that I'm still a current player. I'm one of the best female players in the world. That you guys had a great career and you're retired. You're covering it from the outside, but I can give you a perspective of a player now who's going through the rings of it, who is actively going through all these things that the guys, might potentially be going through and the problems that they're facing on their teams. So I really love that because it gave me an opportunity to own myself as a player and my voice, and to be able to share my voice with people and to have a different perspective than the guys who played, to have a different perspective from the reporters who cover the game. I just love that. And to be on live TV, it's, at first I was like, okay, you can't slip up, you can't curse, you can't say something that's going to get you kicked off, and then you got to study, you got to prepare, you got to know what happened with the Skins this past week, you've got to know what happened with the Ravens and the league in general, because you never know when the guy next to you is going to say, hey, well, what about that? And you're like, I don't know. So it's as close to being on as playing.
Right.
And so it's been an experience I've had 2 years now. I'm going to go into my third year coming up, and I really love it. It's a great opportunity.
And the show name
is Game
On.
Game On.
I love it.
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
What's the vision that you have for yourself now? I mean, you just mentioned that you're approaching 40. You feel young and alive and healthy as ever, and you're going to continue to play. What is next for you, both personally, professionally? Where do you go from here? You're on television, you're a local celebrity, you've an international sensation. I wouldn't even say local. How do you continue to grow and advance?
I think growth just happens naturally. And because I'm always open and looking and trying to create something beyond where I'm at, the opportunities come. I feel that the business side of things will continue to grow. I've got some great relationships I'm developing with the companies I'm working with, and they're international, they're around the world, and that gives me a chance to speak to greater audiences, to be in front of more people. And so I feel the business side really pulling me out, so all these places, especially where I have connections from the football, playing days and working with that. I see football lasting for a while still. I don't see it going away this year or next year. After sitting next to Daryl and he's got 20 years, I'm like, well, it's only like another 5-6 years for me, Who knows where I'll be at that time, but I want to keep playing as long as I can. And so that number one, I'm going to keep doing that. I want to keep growing and learning. I think my spiritual development, personal growth, the time that I spend on myself, that's been one of my priorities actually over a lot of the past few years is who am I and how can I experience more of myself? How can I share more? How can I give more to others? How can I see others more clearly and then have an impact? And so for me, it's trying to just keep growing, keep learning, and just see where life takes me. I don't need it to go in one certain direction or the other. I know opportunities will continue to open up for me. I've had dreams and thought, well, maybe it'd be nice to move to a major network like ESPN or NFL Network and do more analysts. But I'm not sure if just talking about sports is my greatest calling.
Right.
I think it's great and it's fun, and I love to do it. I'd love to do the color commentary for the Olympics when football enters the Olympics. I want to be a part of that broadcast team, since I'm not sure I'll be playing 10 years from now. We'll see. Just being open to where the opportunity takes me and not having it, necessarily set in a box, but having different avenues that I can reach out and reach people. I just want to continue having an impact, to feel like my life made a difference for somebody every day, and not have to, sit back when I'm 100 years old and think, wow, what did I do? Who did I help? To know I'm comfortable where I am now with who I've helped, with what I'm doing, and just to be okay with things, and to love life and enjoy it, and to have great relationships and people around me. I love the people in my life. I love loving. I love being in that space, with others. So to continue to expand that and, bringing love to other people is a lot of my journey.
What I do know about you is that you're a great manifester of your destiny and your desires. I mean, you have on countless occasions have expressed what you desire, what you intend, what you want. And then it's a morph speed. It'll be a few weeks later, a few months later, it's just like, wow, she did it. And so I think that is because you have that drive and that focus, and that you do operate from a place of love. Mm-hmm. So that's a big deal, because when you're not blocked by anger or fear or resentment, and it's purely based on wanting to do something more powerful beyond you, it works much better because the flow of everything starts to happen. So I do think that whatever you desire, it's going to work itself out, because that's how you work. I would like to ask if you could share some advice, words of wisdom for those that are either, in the youth arena looking to go professional with their sport, mm-hmm. or whether someone is already playing sports but just having some doubts and trepidations whether or not they should continue moving forward because of possibly what the outside world might want for them.
Well, I think first off, never do anything based on what the outside world will think. Always do it for what you will think. So if you have trepidation because it's internal in you and you're not sure if you should do it, then evaluate that, and maybe you shouldn't be doing that. But if it's because you're worried about what someone thinks, don't worry, because they're not thinking. They're just having opinions of others that they're spouting off, and most of them aren't actually you. They're not in your shoes. They're not feeling what you're feeling. And so I think being true to yourself, number one, and then doing everything you can to go for it. You know, put it all on the line. Don't hold anything back. Take care of yourself, number one, because you've got to take care of your mind and your body, you know, if you want to play a sport for a long time. You can't just do it physically. You can't just do it mentally. You really have to have that balance. And do it with love, because anything you're afraid of, those fears will manifest in your sports world. They'll manifest in your life. If you're angry, that will come out. And I think football is a sport where a lot of guys still play with anger and still play with that. And there's ones that are starting to learn that you don't have to use that energy. While anger is a powerful energy on the field, love is even more powerful. And people don't know that yet across the board. They still think that getting things from anger and taking is more powerful. But power comes from love and from being in alignment. And that's one thing that I've learned. If I'm in alignment with my teammates, with my quarterback, if I'm on the offensive side and catching the ball, it's not about what you're doing across from me. It's about my own alignment with myself and my team. Same thing on defense. Every person has their role. If one person thinks, oh, it's all about me, I got to go out and do everything, then they're running over here, they're leaving their responsibility. You know, so to be in that space of connecting with who you are, what you need to do, being okay with that, being okay with who you are. And if not to look at failures as something bad. You know, when you don't do something the way you expected to, don't buy into that's who you are, because now you think, oh, I'm a failure, and so you start believing that. And I think a lot of people have trouble because when they first don't see the success they want, now they define themselves by that limited level of success. Don't define yourself by your success or not. Continue to set your mind and your goals and what you want above anything you experience. And never let your experience set the limits on who you think you are or what you can do.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
How can people reach you? Because I'm sure there are people sitting there just like I am saying, I need more of this. I want her to keep talking. How do they find you and connect with you, Donna?
I'm on different social media avenues. Twitter at DonnaWilk33. DonnaWilkinson.net is my website, and you can find everything about me. I've searched Donna the Animal Wilkinson, which is my nickname, and found all kinds of stuff been written about me. So if you search, you can find me. I don't hide. I'm out there, and love to talk to people and see what I can do to help.
Great. And tell us how we can learn more about the DC Divas, and also, you know, the calendar, the schedule for the season, and obviously learn more about what you guys do off season as well on the website.
Well, the website at dcdivas.com, on Facebook at DC Divas Football. Same thing with YouTube. We've got lots of highlight videos and great stuff out. And you know, all the projects and things that I'm working on, I do put on my website. The Divas do great on their Facebook page, so I always recommend people going to their social media Facebook page. And it's great to be here with you, Molly.
Yes, thanks for being here. It's such an inspiration to have you. Your energy is always so powerful and full of energy. So anytime I need a burst of like, you can do it, I just have to call you or Facebook you. And so, but thank you for being here. I'm sure that today you inspired a lot of people.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much, and join us next time on Tea with Molly.